Good evening, everybody. Happy Monday, beginning of a new week, and we got a nice little Mailbag Monday here for episode 20 of Pat's Nation Nightly. As always, I'm Zach, co-hosted by Ben, and a new little Monday tradition for Mailbag Mondays. We're going to be having on Carlos every week, Los Talks Pats, get some fresh opinions flowing in, and just have a great time. So, Ben, Carlos, how are you both doing on this fine Monday evening?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm excited for the mailbag questions. I'm really excited after hearing everything about OTAs. So we'll get into all that. Everything's looking really good right now, though. I like the videos that have come out from OTAs. So lots to talk about.
Yeah, there is a lot to talk about. OTAs, the first official OTA was today. There's going to be about 10 of them throughout this month and leading up to next month in June. This is a time for now the whole team to come together. There's rookie minicamp a few weeks ago, and now some of the veterans come in. You saw Jacoby Brissett was the number one quarterback today. Lots of storylines from that camp. We'll kind of go into that. Like Carlos and Zach just said, we'll do a mailbag segment today, answering your questions. We definitely have a few. So, Zach, put the first one up.
So, let's just get started. Our first question from Patriots Collector on Instagram. What do we think of people judging the rookie quarterbacks based on their release, like their quarterback releases, throwing the ball in rookie minicamp? And he specifically noted to me how Commanders fans and reporters and whoever it may be were focusing on Jaden Daniels having a much faster release than Drake May. So what do you guys think about people judging these rookie quarterbacks based on their releases this early on?
Yeah, I'll just go first here. It's not like I don't think judging a quarterback based on one trait is a valid way of judging a performance, especially before they've actually played a game. These quarterbacks, none of them have actually played a game yet, and before they actually step on the field with 10, 11 players surrounding, you're just not going to know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the thing that really bothers me, like there was a couple videos that came out today from OTAs of like Drake May throwing, and people were saying like, oh, like his footwork is horrible, or his throwing his release is really slow. A lot of these people, I mean, the best way you could describe them and the nicest way you could describe them, they're being couch quarterbacks. Like there was someone that even replied to me. I had to reply back, but they were like criticizing Drake May staying 20 minutes after practice. And they're like, wow, 20 minutes. And it's like, I replied saying 20 minutes is more than you've ever been on an NFL field. Cause it's the truth. Like there's no reason that like people at home should be saying like, oh, look how slow his release is. I would say 90% of people on social media criticizing him don't even know the correct way to throw a football, or have never really gone through an intense course, I guess you could say, of how to throw a football. So besides all that, even during the draft process, people were saying Jaden Daniels has a much cleaner release. He has a much cleaner mechanics as it is. So I don't know why people are all of a sudden trying to act surprised that Drake May needs to work on it. I don't see what the issue is with it, but yeah, I think that people just judging him based off that are either just trying to hype up their own quarterback, so Commanders fans, or they just don't like the Drake May pick in general, so they need to nitpick at stuff that they can get their hands on at this very moment, because obviously he hasn't played in a game yet. So I think it's just people, pretty much just grasping at the straws at this very moment.
Yeah, and with the specific, or I guess the specification of it being in rookie minicamp, we're still early on. If you wanted to look at training camp and say, oh, well, now Drake May's release is still super slow, then okay, maybe I can get that. But rookie minicamp is half speed, if that. And the specifically with the Drake May, Gerard Mayo, I believe, said, like, yeah, we're going to pretty much reset him there and just take everything from step one. Just make sure that he's all set, ready to go, because Drake May is more than likely going to be a project quarterback. So it makes sense that Jaden Daniels right now has a faster release. Drake May is going under a whole change in his footwork.
I think he's lagging.
Oh,
I
going
hear him
through.
okay.
Oh. Guess it wasn't me. Going through a whole like release change, footwork change, all of that. So I would not be too worried about it. Again, it's still super early on, and I'm sure we'll see a bit higher speed from Drake May in the preseason and in training camp when, like Gerard Mayo said, a training camp, that's when real football starts. That's when you can really put on the pads. So I would be looking more so for that than judging QBs based on rookie minicamp.
Yeah, and before you go on there, I just want to add, the Patriots have 4 quarterbacks really on the roster right now. You have Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, Joe Milton, and then Bailey Zappi. I think Mayo mentioned, or someone mentioned today, that they'd like to get that quarterback room down to 3 quarterbacks after the spring and before training camp. And I think it's going to be really interesting to watch the battle. I would say, I think it's between Joe Milton and Bailey Zappi. I don't really see how you can see otherwise. And I think you draft Joe Milton, right? Then last draft, you have Bailey Zappi. Which one of those guys has the upper hand? It's going to be interesting to see. What's going to be interesting to see is the Patriots have a late bye week, right? And there's only 4 games after the bye week, I think. 4 or 5 games? Anyway, it's 4 games after the bye week. So is it really worth starting Drake May if your season is already gone by the bye week? So just some things to kind of watch as the season goes on.
For sure. And I'm going to just build off that for 1 second. I don't see a future where Bailey Zappi is on this football team in any capacity. Just spent a 6th rounder isn't a premium asset, but like it's not nothing. And it was a pretty high 6th rounder, I believe, too. So you just spent a decent pick on Joe Milton, and I don't think you're going to get rid of him before training camp even begins. Zappi did take a lot of reps today, though. I believe it was the same amount as Drake May, and Milton took none in 11s. I think only 4 in 7s. So maybe that is something to watch, with the possibility of Joe Milton getting released before training camp even begins. But I just don't see it, in all honesty. Now, moving on to our next question from PGS Nest. If it goes up, there we go. Who at cornerback could we see taking a big step forward out of the unproven group? For example, Marco Wilson, Marcus Jones, Isaiah Bolden, Alex Austin, or anybody else. I'll let you guys start off.
Yeah, I think the last time we went on, Carlos was one who said, like, this is what he's looking forward to the most, right, is the defensive backs battle during training camp. And he has a good point. Like, this is going to be a really tough position group to judge because just there's so many talented guys. You have Isaiah Bolden, who unfortunately got injured in the preseason last year, and he has some potential, right, to be definitely on the roster and definitely fighting for a spot, but also you could maybe see some reps at kick returner for him. That's something he did in college and something I think he went to Colorado, and he is used to doing that. Alex Austin was a late addition last year. He proved himself at the end of last season, had good games against the Broncos and the Bills late. I think the one player for me I would be watching the most is Isaiah Borden, just because Alex Austin kind of already proved himself at the end of last season. And Marcus Jones, we all know what he can do. Hopefully, he comes back healthy. He suffered a dislocated shoulder in week 2 against the Dolphins, and we kind of haven't seen him since. But hopefully, he comes back strong.
Yeah, I would put like the odd one out from this group just seems like Marcus Jones. I feel like he's proven enough already. Obviously, he could take a step forward still, but I think he is on a level above the guys that I'm thinking of. It's not just Marco Wilson, Isaiah Bolden, Alex Austin. I'm also thinking of like Azizi Hearn, even though no one really thinks about him in the group. But Marcellus Dial, like he was the only defensive player taken. Most people aren't even thinking about him right now. Because of that, I would just say I would actually agree with Ben. I think Isaiah Bolden would be my pick, but we just need to see how it goes because he was going to be like the 53rd, 52nd man on the roster. That was like the projection. They obviously kept him around on IR with just the Foxborough flu. In reality, he suffered that very bad concussion against the Packers in the preseason. So after getting placed on IR, they kept him around for a reason. So the reason I'm bringing that up is just because he hasn't really proven it in game yet. So we'll see how he does there. Alex Austin obviously had a very good end to the season. And then Marco Wilson, he had an up and down time in Arizona before they released him and the Patriots picked him up. But I don't know. I don't really expect much from him, but we'll see. I bet I would agree with Ben. I think Isaiah Bolden is the one that we could see taking the biggest step forward.
Yeah, I'm basically going to echo what you guys said. Isaiah Bolden had a very good training camp last year, and it was a pretty crowded cornerback room early on in the season. I mean, that was still when like Jack Jones was an option, and then obviously that went downhill. So he was projected to make the roster as one of the last few guys. But this was still when the Patriots had a pretty solid and pretty crowded cornerback room. I would have liked to seen him play last year. Obviously, it didn't go well in the preseason with that injury, but I think he will have a pretty big step forward, at least be competitive for a roster spot during training camp, and then we'll see, I guess, how it shapes out from there. Alex Austin, of course, Carlos, like you said, had that great end to the season, and he'll be entertaining to watch for sure in training camp, in the preseason. See if he can continue on that hot streak. But yeah, I'm excited because it's a pretty like boom or bust cornerback room, I would say, and the Patriots have gotten a lot of production out of guys like that who you don't really know much about. They are younger. They don't have a ton of experience. They weren't like these highly touted recruits. Maybe they're undrafted or late round pick, whatever it may be. And then they end up getting massive production out of them. So could I see that out of Bolden, Alex Austin, or somebody else? Of course. But we'll also have to see where it goes. It's still super early on. So anything could really happen.
Yeah, and I would also say that as crazy as it might sound, I think Jonathan Jones is the only proven corner in the whole group, which might sound crazy, but everyone loves Christian Gonzalez.
What about the guy behind?
I was about to say everyone loves Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, you see the jersey behind me, but he only played what was it 4 games or like 4.5 games before he got hurt?
4.5 games, yeah.
Yeah, so he still has a lot to prove. I would still consider him unproven. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, he didn't show anything, but it would be nice to see it throughout a whole season, or at least 12 games of the season. So hopefully we see a jump from him as well. So just wanted to preface it. I think it's a very young cornerback room. I would say Jonathan Jones is the only really proven one from there. So we'll see how it shapes out.
Yeah, and especially, obviously, hopefully not, but maybe Christian Gonzalez has a recurring injury or something like that where the dislocated shoulder, torn labrum was just the catalyst, and then some more happens. Like, you never know. We really hope that that's not the case, but things could happen. So again, very young group, not really anybody proven except for Jonathan Jones, and we'll see how this room shapes out. Moving on to the next question. Who are the odd men out in the wide receiver room?
Yeah, I'll take the first dib at this, I guess. I think we kind of talked about this last show a little bit, or last week. The for sure people are Kendrick Bourne, right? KJ Osborne, and then the two rookies, Javon Baker and Jalen Polk.
And Pop.
And Pop. Yeah, no, so that's 5. The Patriots normally carry 6 receivers at the start, sometimes 7, right? So now you have Jalen Reagor, you have Juju Smith-Schuster, you have Tyquan Thornton, you have TJ Luther, you have 3 more guys I'm missing, but I don't have the roster. Who else is?
There's K1 Baker as well.
K1 Baker, Keyshawn Boutte. So that's 5 players right there, right? There's gonna be an intense battle. I think as of now, the odd one out is Tyquan Thornton. I don't think he's gonna beat out Juju Smith-Schuster for that last spot. You saw Juju speak with the media today. Seemed great. Vibes were much better, he said, than last season. He also said he was dealing with an ankle injury last year, and that wasn't just the media talking, right? He actually was. He wasn't playing 100%. You saw him play really, really well against Pittsburgh that 1 week of the season. And besides that, he really didn't have that many great performances on the field. Hopefully he can go back to himself and how he played 3-4 years ago. I think it's doubtful, but I think he has a better chance to reach his potential this season than Tyquan Thornton does.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly find it really encouraging just hearing what Juju had to say at the end of the OTAs during the whole little scrum. It was just he seemed very energetic. He seemed like a completely different person compared to last season. I do think though that he kind of has a lock on that last spot. So the reason I'm saying that is because when we consider it who's the odd man out, I think that he obviously is leading the pack from those guys that will take that sixth wide receiver spot. But I think from a fan's perspective, we see it like that. But personally, I feel like from the team's perspective, they don't view him in that group. That's just my guess. So I do think Tyquan would be the one that's leading that group, if that makes sense. And I do think Keyshawn Boutte is probably on the way out. Obviously TJ Luther, K1 Baker. I don't see those guys sticking around unless it's on the practice squad. Boutte I could see being on the practice squad, but I honestly don't think he likes being in New England. That's just my opinion. But we'll see how it shapes out, we've been saying. But yeah, I do think that Juju is pretty much a lock for the team, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see if he even makes it through the preseason. Maybe it was just all talk about him, being 100%, and then all of a sudden come preseason, he's already injured. So we'll see about that.
That's interesting because I was going to have Juju as my odd man out. And while he may be a bit better, maybe, than Tyquan Thornton or than Jalen Reagor, and even that is questionable. At this point of his career, is he better than those guys? There's a debate to be had there. But I like the skill set of Reagor and of Thornton more. And I think that they're guys who just, if they capitalize on their abilities, which who knows if it'll happen, but I like the potential there a lot more. Thornton definitely had some flashes where I had seen him play and I thought he maybe can be a really legit wide receiver one. I think it was his rookie year training camp and maybe even a bit last year. It was he had a solid year. So I do like Thornton. I also thought he had a pretty good game against the Broncos. I thought he was getting open a lot, but Zappe never really looked his way. So if he performs how he has in prior training camps, I think he has the job. But Juju is also a veteran, which that room doesn't have a lot of. I guess Kendrick Bourne is, Osborne is, but Pop is still young. If Taekwon wins the job, he's still young, and then the two rookies, of course. So I would like Thornton a little bit more. I would probably have Juju as the odd man out, and then potentially maybe Rager makes it too. But those are the three who are potentially odd men out.
Yeah. So that kind of wraps it up there with our questions. As always, we'll have callers on most Mondays.
We have one more, Ben.
Oh, we have one more?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. One more. Let's cut it off short.
My fault. From Ken, as we get closer to minicamp and training camp in July, how much are we going to see Drake May take offensive reps with the first team, or will it be Jacoby Brissett?
Carlos, do you want the first dibs there?
Hold on. This is a kind of a long-winded question. I do believe that he. I don't know. It's tough just because of the way they ordered the reps today. I will say it might be a little. I don't know. This is actually a really tough question.
I think it's going to be Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Just because you want to get as many reps to the person who will be starting week 1. I don't think there's any scenario besides Jacoby Brissett getting hurt in which Drake May overtakes him for the job. That's just my gut right now. I think just there's too much risk involved, and Jacoby Brissett is an established veteran who has the ability to take a team and maybe to the playoffs if he's surrounded well. But it's realistic for Jacoby Brissett to lead a 10-win team to the playoffs. I think he's a really good veteran, and that's who I want to see getting all the first team reps. You kind of saw today at OTAs. We'll kind of talk about the OTA practice a little more about after this question. I'm butchering my words right now, but I think that Jacoby Brissett is the most established veteran, and that's why the Patriots are going to give him all the first team.
Yeah, I mean, I could also see everyone always compares it to the Cam and Mac situation, that Cam got more reps, but Mac got like the more valuable reps. So obviously we won't get a firsthand account as to what they're doing in practice. Training camp is obviously the most likely when the fans are able to attend, that we'll be able to see who's getting the first team reps. But I could definitely see like Jacoby getting 7 first team reps and Drake getting 3. So it's kind of tough saying, oh yeah, only one guy is going to get all the first team reps. I honestly don't think that's likely, but I do agree, Ben. I do think it'll be Jacoby taking the brunt of it, and he is already the established vet. So where everyone's assumption is that he's going to start the season as of right now. So we'll see how that shapes out and looks come training camp.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Brissett took the majority of reps today, while Drake May split time with Zappe. I think that says a lot. Like the fact that they have Drake May essentially on the depth chart at the same place as Bailey Zappe is interesting to me. I would have thought that automatically he would have gotten similar reps to Jacoby Brissett. Didn't really happen. So yeah, like you guys said, Jacoby Brissett's probably going to get the majority of it. Drake May then will come off and just get valuable time, but not as much as Brissett is likely going to.
Okay, now moving on. After we finish the questions, like I was saying before, please feel free throughout the week to submit any question you may have to the Pats Nation Nightly account on Twitter or just DM Zach or I, and we'd be or Carlos, and we'd be happy to answer them on the next Monday's edition of Pat's Nation Nightly. Now, as we've been mentioning, OTA practice happened today. I just wanted just share my thoughts on kind of what happened today, right? This was the first practice. John Mayo talked about how they were emphasizing first and second down this week. The first thing I kind of want to hit on and get you guys' opinions on was what was occurring and what was happening on the offensive line specifically. Obviously, you saw Michael Owenu take the snaps at right tackle. Calvin Anderson was behind him as the first backup. On the left side, you have Chuks Agorfor, and then behind him was I want to say who
I don't know if it was Caden Wallace or Vidarian Lowe, but
sorry, Vidarian Lowe, because that was my next point. Is Caden Wallace wasn't getting a lot of action today, and on the inside with Core Strange gone, you saw City Joe take his spot, and Antonio Mafi take some reps at center.
yeah, I mean, the thing that surprised me most was seeing City So move from the right to the left side. I think that's like one of the biggest talking points right now as far as the offensive line. Seeing, I believe it was, I actually have it up. It was Nick Leverett, correct? That was on the right that you said?
It was,
yeah. So he came in at right guard. Other practice pictures have shown Layden Robinson at left guard. Antonio Mafi was starting at left guard the other day with the first team unit and some pictures from practice. So this is obviously going to be a fluid offensive line. We'll see how it turns out throughout the offseason, but they're really, really trying to shuffle everybody around, see what offensive line works best. And that was honestly expected, especially in the interior, because I don't even know how many guards they have, but I think it's like well over 5 or at least 6. But yeah, they're going to shuffle a lot. So I wouldn't put too much into the starting offensive line today, just because by the next time the media has availability, who knows? Maybe Layden Robinson starting, and then City So is back on the right side, or City So maybe is not even in the starting unit. But speaking of City So, I will say he has been one of the consistent people on the line. So even though they're shuffling guards around, he has been the one that hasn't really stepped out from the line. They've been putting players around him. So it's always been David Andrews, City So, Mike Onwenu, and Chuks Agorfor. And it's been just one of the guard spots, either flipping or someone filling in at that spot for Cole Strange, who's also another whole part of like the OTA story. So maybe we can get into that.
Yeah, just again, pretty much echoing what you both said, versatility. The offensive line group has moved around a lot. I would say the Patriots have a lot of capable starters, especially on the interior. Like even their depth guys can definitely step in and be pretty capable on the interior and across pretty much all 3 positions there. So, like Carlos said, it's going to be a fluid group. Everybody will play everywhere, and I would not put a ton of emphasis on like, oh, this guy is playing XYZ reps or whatever it may be. It's still early on. I've emphasized it a lot. There's a lot that's going to happen from now until training camp, until the preseason, and then week 1. But yeah, it's an interesting lineup. Ben, like you had talked about, the way that they set everything up is pretty unique and unexpected, but I'm excited to see how this offensive line performs because they do have a lot of talent there.
Yeah, so the last OTA practice will be, I think it's 6/12, the day that Tom Brady is going to get his number retired for the in the Patriots organization. So between now, May 20th, and June 12th, there's going to be about 10 practices. Some are going to be open to the media, or some are not going to be open to the media. It's always been like that. That's nothing new. And then the players will have kind of a couple weeks off to themselves, and then training camp will start in late July. So that's kind of your next few months for you. The Patriots have one of the first preseason games again this season. The first preseason game is going to be August 8th. To circle your calendars for that. That's probably going to see. We'll see Drake May for the first time in a game setting. Some news that also came out was the Patriots are going to try to have joint practices with the Philadelphia Eagles at one point this offseason, or this training camp, I should say. So that's something to look forward to, too. Those practices, I always find, well, they're not always the most helpful because it usually breaks out in fights. You saw that kind of last year in Carolina and New York, but it's intense competition because when you have like all these 90 players on each team fighting for a roster spot, I mean, it's just going to spark intense competition.
Yeah, well, like Gerard Mayo said, it's not going to be, more than likely, it's not going to be joint practices with the Eagles. It's going to be a joint practice, which is interesting because under Belichick, it was pretty much always 2 joint practices with the team. And Mayo said it's not productive. It's always, or it increases the possibility of practice just ending with fights. And you see it every year. I mean, there's always massive scrums every joint practice. So that is an interesting change of pace, in my opinion, just going from 2 joint practices to 1. And that'll, again, likely be with the Eagles here in New England.
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of wrapping up here. Again, this was a shorter segment. These Monday shows will probably be shorter segments, 30-minute installments, just because there's only so many questions. But please feel free to get any questions you have and DM us. Zach, where can they DM us? Can you just put it back on the screen?
Hold on. Get into it. There we go.
Sweet. And then for this week, I think our next show is planned for this Friday, where we will be having a guest on. That is for sure. So we will definitely be having a special guest on this Friday, and make sure to follow both of these socials in order to get the latest surrounding this podcast, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, like Ben said, these episodes are going to probably be shorter on Mondays, but it's all dependent on you guys. The 124 of you listening and everybody else who follows or whatever it may be. If you guys drop 100 questions, we'll answer 100 questions. If you drop 1, we'll answer that 1. So make sure to, mostly on X or on Twitter, follow on there. We're not as active on Instagram, but the X Twitter username is right below Ben. Make sure you follow on there. Stay posted on when we're going to be going live. And that being said, Carlos, thank you for coming on. We will see you again next week, next Monday, for another Mailbag Monday. Thank you all for joining and listening. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys.